All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling something that I know a lot of you have asked about, phrasal verbs.
Yeah, these little combos can be tricky.
Oh, absolutely. But they're also the key to sounding, well, more natural, more fluent. We've got a whole bunch of resources here,
Yeah.
and we're going to break them down into everyday situations so they're easier to remember and to actually use.
It's all about making them practical.
Right. So let's kick things off with a scenario we all face, morning routines.
The daily grind.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, have you ever struggled with the whole wake up versus get up thing?
Oh, for sure. They seem interchangeable.
I know, right?
There's a subtle difference.
I hit sneeze like a million times before I actually, roll out of bed.
Well, think of it this way. Wake up is simply becoming conscious.
Okay.
Get up is the action, the physical getting out of bed.
Ah, so it's like consciousness versus action.
Ex-
That makes so much more sense. Okay, so let's say you've finally gotten up, you're going about your day. Have you ever found yourself running out of something, like coffee or time?
Oh, constantly.
I know, right? My coffee disappears in like 5 seconds.
Running out of really captures that feeling of depletion.
Yeah.
But, it could be applied to more than just physical things. Think about, projects at work. You can run out of steam on a project. That initial motivation just fizzles out. Or you can run out of options when you're facing a tricky dilemma.
I like that. So it's not just, running out of actual stuff. It's like a broader sense of, nothing left.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of running out of things, I have a confession. I was once so excited to meet some friends for a movie that I completely forgot to turn off the lights at home.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my electricity bill was not happy.
We've all been there. And while we usually use turn off for lights or appliances,
Right.
think about how it applies to emotions, too. You can try to turn off your anxiety
Okay.
or turn off those feelings of anger.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like controlling those internal switches.
So we've got a control panel of emotions.
Excited.
And sometimes, we just need to hit off.
Take charge.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the wonderful world of work and study. Emails, deadlines, those ever-growing to-do lists.
The joys.
So how do you usually catch up on work when you're, feeling behind? Sometimes I just end up staring at my computer screen, like completely overwhelmed.
I hear you. Catching up on definitely implies that feeling of being behind and trying to get back on track.
Yeah.
But what if, instead of seeing it as a burden,
Okay.
we saw it as a challenge, an opportunity to test our organizational skills?
I like that. A challenge, not a chore.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's say you're working on a big project and you need to make sure everything is, perfect. How important is it to look over things carefully before hitting that submit button? I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way a few times.
Oh, more times than I can count. Looking over isn't just glancing at something.
Right.
It's actively engaging with it, paying attention to the details. Actually, one time I was looking over a contract and almost missed this crucial clause buried in the fine print. It was a good reminder to be thorough.
Oh, wow. That's a close call. Sometimes I just wish I could call off all my meetings and escape the office for a bit.
I know, right?
Just take a walk, maybe grab a coffee.
But if we think about call off more broadly,
Okay.
it's not just about canceling meetings. It can be any planned event, a social gathering, a business trip, even a project that's just not working out.
So it's like hitting pause, reassessing, and then deciding whether to, keep going or change direction.
Exactly. Sometimes calling off something can be the most productive thing you can do.
Okay, enough about work. Let's talk about something more fun, like social interactions and relationships. Do you have someone in your life who you just totally click with, someone you really get along with?
Oh, absolutely. And getting along with someone goes beyond just liking them, right?
Yeah.
It's about mutual respect, understanding,
I like that.
and a shared sense of humor.
It's like, a dance where both partners are in sync.
And what's fascinating is getting along with someone doesn't mean you always agree. It's about navigating those differences, finding that sweet spot where everyone feels heard and valued.
So true. Sometimes things don't work out, though, and we have to, make that tough decision to break up with someone.
Breaking up is usually associated with romantic relationships.
Right.
But it can apply to friendships, partnerships.
Yeah, for sure.
Even breaking free from negative habits.
Oh, I like that. It's like recognizing when a connection, whatever kind it is, isn't working.
Yeah.
And having the courage to change it. Hopefully, though, if there are disagreements, we can make up and reconcile.
Absolutely. Making up signifies that restoration of harmony, willingness to forgive,
Yeah.
understand, and move forward together.
Now, have you ever been in a conversation where you needed to, steer the topic in a certain direction?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
I always feel so awkward doing that.
Well, that's where bringing up something strategically can be really helpful.
Okay.
It's about subtly guiding the conversation. For example, If you're at a networking event and you want to learn more about someone's work, you could casually bring up a recent industry trend
That's good.
or an article you read
Yeah.
as a way to spark a conversation.
That sounds so much smoother than just abruptly changing the subject.
A bit more graceful.
Speaking of social situations, another confession. I'm always late. Like always showing up late, even when I try my best to be on time.
Oh, I feel that.
Once I was meeting friends for a concert and I got stuck in traffic. By the time I arrived, they were already halfway through the opening act.
And showing up isn't just about physical arrival either.
Oh.
It's about making an appearance, whether it's at an event, in someone's life, even metaphorically, like when an opportunity suddenly shows up.
I never thought of it that way. So it can be both literal and figurative.
Exactly. It adds another layer of meaning.
Okay, let's talk about travel. You know that feeling of anticipation when you're about to set off on an adventure?
Oh, yeah. I love that feeling.
Whether it's a road trip, a flight across the ocean, even just exploring a new part of your city.
Yeah.
There's something so exciting about it.
Setting off really captures that sense of purpose.
Right.
That feeling of embarking on a journey.
And once you set off, chances are you'll be picking up or dropping off something along the way.
For sure, and for sure.
Souvenirs, travel buddies, new experiences, who knows?
But picking up and dropping off aren't just for physical things either. Think about skills. You can pick up a new language while traveling.
That's true.
Or maybe drop off some bad habits along the way.
It's like an exchange of both tangible and intangible things.
Exactly.
And speaking of travel, navigating public transport can be its own adventure, especially figuring out when to get on or get off.
Oh, tell me about it.
I once missed my stop because I was so engrossed in a book that I completely zoned out.
I've done that too.
Getting on and getting off represent transitions, right?
Yeah, entering or exiting a particular space or situation.
It's easy to get lost in your own world and miss those important cues. Well, we've covered quite a bit in this first part of our deep dive. Everyday routines, work, social interactions, even travel.
It's amazing how these phrasal verbs pop up everywhere.
They really do. And what's cool is they make our speech sound so much more natural and informal.
It's like they add flavor to our language.
Exactly. And I think what we're seeing is that using these phrasal verbs isn't just about sounding like a native speaker. It's about understanding those subtle nuances of English.
Right.
And using them to communicate more effectively.
It's about unlocking a whole new level of fluency. And I think our deep dive has just scratched the surface. It really is amazing. You know, how these little verbs and prepositions can add so much depth to the way we express ourselves.
Like, yeah, there are these hidden gems sprinkled everywhere in our conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't even realize it. So we've talked about how phrasal verbs show up in our daily routines, work, social stuff. But what about those unexpected situations?
Ah, yes.
You know, life throws a curveball.
Life is full of surprises.
Exactly. And it's amazing how phrasal verbs are perfect for describing those moments.
Yeah.
Have you ever had plans change suddenly?
Oh, all the time.
And you had to figure out a new solution, like right on the spot?
Oh, countless times.
I remember one time I was supposed to fly to a conference.
Yeah.
And my flight got canceled last minute. Total chaos. I had to figure out new travel arrangements while juggling everything else. It was a mess.
Figure out is like the ultimate problem-solving phrasal verb.
It is.
It implies adaptability.
Yeah.
You know, thinking on your feet.
Yeah, like our inner detective comes out.
Exactly.
Okay, what about those difficult situations?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that really test your patience, you know?
For sure.
Have you ever had to deal with something like that?
Well, dealing with something means confronting it head on.
Okay.
It's about like navigating those tough situations with grace. One time I had to deal with a huge setback at work, a project that just completely fell apart. It was stressful, but it definitely taught me about perseverance.
It's like those moments force us to level up our skills.
Right.
Become more resilient, you know?
Exactly.
Sometimes, though, when things get tough, we just want to back out. Have you ever felt that way?
Backing out could be a good move sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when you realize a situation just isn't right for you anymore. Like it doesn't align with your goals,
I see.
or your values.
So it's about knowing your limits.
Yeah.
And making choices that are good for you.
I once backed out of a business partnership when I realized our visions weren't the same. It was a tough call, but it allowed me to find opportunities that were a better fit.
Sometimes you have to back out to let something better come in.
Exactly.
Now, when we're dealing with unexpected things, sometimes we need help.
For sure.
Have you ever had to reach out to someone for support?
Oh, absolutely. Reaching out is so important. It's acknowledging that we don't have to go through things alone.
Yeah.
It's about connection. You know, I went through a personal crisis once, and I was so hesitant to reach out to my friends.
Yeah, I get it.
But when I finally did, their support was incredible.
Sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable.
It is.
But it's in those moments when we reach out that real connection happens.
I completely agree.
Okay, let's shift gears again. When things get overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
how do you calm down?
Oh, that's a good question. Calming down is about finding those things that help us regulate our emotions, right? For me, it's nature. A walk in the park, listening to birds,
I love that.
just feeling the sun.
Yeah.
It helps me reconnect with myself.
Nature has this amazing ability to soothe us, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Sometimes all it takes is a few moments of quiet to down and see things more clearly. Have you ever had to stand up for something you believe in?
Oh, absolutely. Standing up for something takes courage.
It does.
It's about advocating for what's right, even when it's hard. I once saw someone being treated unfairly, and I felt compelled to stand up for them.
That's so brave.
It wasn't easy, but it taught me about using my voice for good. And sometimes standing up for something means speaking out against injustice,
Right.
raising awareness about important issues.
It's like, yeah, each time we speak out, we plant a seed for change.
And those seeds can grow into powerful movements.
Okay, so we've talked about phrasal verbs for unexpected situations, challenges, even standing up for what's right.
Uh-huh.
But what about those moments of joy? The celebrations?
Oh, yeah, those are important too.
Phrasal verbs can add so much energy to those expressions, you know?
They can.
Have you ever had to cheer someone up?
Of course.
Like when a friend was going through a rough time,
Yeah.
you just wanted to brighten their day.
Cheering someone up is all about spreading kindness.
Like we have this superpower to make someone's day better.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, sometimes those acts of kindness lead to unexpected connections. Have you ever run into someone you knew just by chance?
All the time. Running into someone unexpectedly can be so fun,
It can.
like these serendipitous encounters.
It really is.
I ran into a former colleague at a coffee shop once,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up talking for hours.
It's like the universe is playing matchmaker.
Sometimes it feels that way.
Have you ever had a dream or a goal that you were really hoping would work out?
Working out implies that sense of effort, the perseverance to reach a goal. I always wanted to write a book,
Wow.
and I spent years working on it, facing rejection after rejection. But I kept going, and eventually it all worked out.
That's incredible.
The book got published. It was amazing.
It shows that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Yeah.
And when things finally work out, it make all the effort worth it. Spoop of things working out. Have you ever had an idea or a plan that suddenly came together perfectly?
Oh, I love that feeling. Coming together implies that sense of harmony
Yeah.
when everything just clicks. I was working on this complex project once,
Uh-huh.
and we were hitting roadblocks left and right.
I've been there.
But then we started communicating better, collaborating more,
Okay.
and suddenly it all came together. We achieved our goals, and it was a real testament to teamwork.
It's like when individual efforts create something much bigger, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes that coming together goes beyond teams and projects.
It does.
It's like communities uniting for a cause.
Yeah.
Or even global movements working towards a better world.
It's a beautiful thing.
We've covered so much ground in this part of our deep dive. Phrasal verbs for unexpected situations, celebrations, making a difference. It's really incredible how these little verbs and prepositions can add so much nuance to our language.
And what's really exciting is that this is just a glimpse.
Yeah.
There are so many more phrasal verbs out there to explore.
Right.
It's a reminder that learning a language is a journey that never ends.
You know, it's incredible how phrasal verbs manage to sneak into every part of our lives.
They really do.
We've talked about everyday stuff, work, relationships,
Yeah.
even dealing with the unexpected.
Uh-huh.
But there's one area we haven't touched on yet, our thoughts, ideas, that whole internal world,
Right. It's fascinating how phrasal verbs help us express those things.
They do. How do we even talk about those mental processes without them?
Exactly. It's like they give us a language for thinking. Think about when you're trying to think something through before making a big decision.
Oh, tell me about it. I overthink everything. I'll mull it over for days, weighing the pros and cons, imagining all the possibilities. It's exhausting, but I think it's important to, give those big decisions the time they need.
I agree. And it's interesting how you used both think something through and mull it over. They both involve deep thought. But mull it over suggests a more passive process, like letting an idea simmer in the back of your mind.
So mulling it over is like slow cooking a decision until it's perfect.
Exactly. But sometimes mulling isn't enough. Sometimes you need to actively work something out.
Right, yeah.
That implies a more focused problem-solving approach.
Okay, so it's like shifting from relaxing to okay, gotta figure this out.
Exactly. And sometimes when we're working something out,
Yeah.
it's helpful to look back on past experiences, to see what we can learn from them.
Looking back on our past can be really insightful, can't it?
It can. It's like using our past as a guide. I often find myself looking back on my career choices, the good and the bad. And it helps me appreciate how much I've learned and grown.
It's like our past becomes this, like, compass.
Yeah.
But we're still the ones steering the ship.
Exactly. Now, sometimes when we're trying to understand something new,
Yeah.
we need to break it down into smaller pieces, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when it's something complicated.
Breaking something down is all about simplifying,
Right.
making things easier to grasp.
Okay.
As a teacher, I do this all the time. You have to break down complex ideas for students.
Yeah.
Find ways to make them relatable.
It's like you're guiding them on this learning journey.
That's a great way to put it. And sometimes that journey involves looking at things from different perspectives.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Especially when we're stuck in our own way of thinking.
Looking at things from different angles is so important for critical thinking. It's about challenging our assumptions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a disagreement with a colleague once,
Mm-hmm.
and we were both so focused on our own viewpoints.
Yeah, I've been there.
But then we tried to look at the situation from each other's perspective. We didn't have to agree,
Right.
but it helped us understand each other better.
It's amazing how just shifting our perspective can, like, open up a whole new understanding, you know?
It can, and that understanding can lead to coming up with new ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up with new ideas is all about creativity.
Yeah.
It's those moments when inspiration strikes. Some of my best ideas have come from unexpected places,
Really?
like a chat with a friend or just observing nature.
I like that.
It's about staying curious and open.
Those aha moments. And sometimes those aha moments help us come into our own, you know?
Exactly. Coming into your own means embracing your strengths,
Right.
finding your voice,
Oh, fair.
living authentically. I spent years trying to fit in, but then I realized I needed to embrace what makes me unique. That's when I truly came into my own.
It's a powerful message. Accepting yourself, celebrating your individuality. It makes me think about language itself, you know?
Yeah.
It's always evolving, coming into its own. New words, new meanings.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. Well, we've explored phrasal verbs in so many different ways.
We have.
Everyday life, work, relationships, the unexpected, even our thoughts and dreams.
And it's just the beginning.
Right. It's amazing how these little verb and preposition combos can add so much depth to our language.
They really are powerful tools for communication.
They are. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Think about the phrasal verbs you use. How do they shape the way you see the world? And how can you use them to express yourself more fully and connect with others in a meaningful way? Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those ha moments coming. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.